I'll tell you, my first memory is of the 905 building. Wait, yeah, the 905 building. That's where the Be the Match is now, right?
That's 524.
Sorry, 524. I can never remember the building numbers. And you went through the reception area, and on the left was my dad's office, and he shared the office with my great-grandfather. When I was 8 years old, my parents bought a fort for the backyard. The warehouse guys assembled it in the warehouse, and then we had it brought over to the backyard at our house. So, and actually Augie Klein, who is still our warehouse manager today, was one of the warehouse guys who helped build that fort.
I'm Richard Cohn. I represent the second generation. Actually, I'm the third generation at Replenex. My grandfather, my dad, then me. Replenex began as S&S Jobbing Company. S for Sid was my grandfather, the other S for Sid was my dad. My dad enlisted in the services in World War II, and when he was discharged, he came back and worked for the VA in Minneapolis. He developed a model that was going to save the VA a lot of money. And the light went on, and he said, if I had done anything like this in private practice, I would have gotten a lot more than a letter of commendation. He went back to my grandfather, and the two of them decided that they were going to get into the distribution business. So he and my grandfather bid on a railroad car of grinding wheels. They knew nothing about grinding wheels, but they thought they knew people who could use them. They changed the name from S&S Jobbing Company to Minnesota Industrial Tools. About year 2000, we went on a branding exercise. And after the branding exercise, we came up with the name Replenex, which was short for replenishment experts. And that's who we are and continue to be today.
To know that I'm shepherding something that really started with hey, what do these grinding wheels do? And then driving around town and figuring out what grinding wheels did, and my grandfather asking people, if we sold these to you, how do they work? How can they help you? I mean, that's just cool.
The first thing he would do when he'd see you is he'd say hello. And the next thing he said would, come here, sit next to me, and tell me what I can help you with today.
I joined the company. It was S&S Jobbing at that time, Sid and Sam. Started working in the warehouse, made my way up to the city desk, we called it at that time. Now it's customer service. In the morning, I got a phone call from a customer who immediately started ranting and raving, swearing at me and using some very blue language. I thought to myself, this isn't right. I hung the phone up. Didn't take long for the phone to ring again, and I answered, Ron Veith, and hello, this is Sid Cohen. He said, did you have a phone call today from someone? I said, yes, I certainly did. Well, sounds like you might have had a bad day. Yes, I did. I think he did too. Well, he may have, but remember, he's the customer, and he can have a bad day, but you shouldn't have one.
And starting with my dad is that we tried to always hire the right people, and then you have an investment in the success and the failure of the people who you've hired.
That's correct.
When Mr. Sidney Cohen talked to you, nobody in the world existed. It was just you and him.
I met him like the first or second day out in the warehouse, and I'm just the warehouse guy. I just started, just a young kid, and all of a sudden he introduced himself, and I tell him who I am, and then like I'd say probably 4 or 5 weeks later, he's out in the warehouse doing something, says, how you doing, Augie? And I'm going, how does he remember my name? I only seen him once.
We like to refer to this as a business owned by a family, but not a family business. And so we regard everybody here as part of our family. Can't take good care of your customers unless you're taking good care of your people internally.
That was the distinction for me. If we put the business first, if we recognize it and talk to our employees that way about being a business owned by a family, because the decisions we make are about good business decisions, not because somebody in the family needs to have a job.
My name is Lori Dahlquist. It'll be 38 years for me, and I am in what is now called supply chain. purchasing department.
I'm Augie Klein. My role is I'm a warehouse manager here. Been here since 1977, so I'm kind of an old dude.
My name is Shelby Mannion and I work in the accounting department. I have been with Replenex, Minnesota Industrial Tools, for 45 years.
I grew up here, literally grew up here. These people were like my brothers and my sisters.
We take care of our own people. When they have a need, we do our best to fill it. We do what we can to make sure that their work here is fulfilling.
And I would say that it's different because it's not corporate. We have a lot of humility and we like to have fun and we joke around and people take things lightheartedly. We have humility.
Some people would think that showing up means just getting to work on time. That is not what it means to me. Showing up is a passion for what you do.
I was grateful when Replenex approached me and I wanted to get back to a smaller company where you know your manager and you could look them in the eye and talk about things.
I would describe the culture here as a very trusted environment where people can feel respected and their professional opinions are considered. We encourage vulnerable transparency here.
Coming back from a journey in my career of having worked for a business owned by a family that got acquired into a larger corporation, you lose that vibe, you lose that culture. And so when I was on that journey back and I had the opportunity to meet with you personally, it made me go, I really want to work here. And this is where I want to finish my career.
When I interviewed here, by the time I left, I went home and I told my husband, honestly, if they don't offer me the job, I'm gonna be really disappointed because these are my people. I think I finally found my people.
After the first interview here, I left and I thought, wow, this place not only values my finance experience, but also really values my military experience. I went home that day and I thought, yeah, I think I found my people too.
We're service. It's all about our people. That's all we have to offer. So we have to make them matter because that's our number one asset.
The business for Replenex is we go into customers, we ask a whole bunch of questions around customer need, which is no different than my grandfather saying, what can I do for you? How can I make your production better, faster, more efficient? How can you produce more at the same cost? All of that kind of stuff. And we do that with best-in-class suppliers.
In my 17 years here, I want to say Replenex has won at least 4 nationally recognized awards. You don't do that by doing things the safe way and doing it the same way.
If you have a vision, a dream, a picture of what your supply chain looks like, that end game, we can do it. That customization is our game changer.
I worked for a privately owned family company for 54 years. When you have a privately owned family company, if you make it through the 3rd generation, you're doing very well. But if you can make it with the 4th generation, you've got to be having some really good things happening.
Ron Veith is the predecessor in which I replaced, and those are some pretty big shoes. And here I am coming in, I'm going, wow, I don't even know where to begin, right? Ron mentored me to take what he already started and continue to move it in an upward direction to continue to have the company grow.
My dad, when he saw that I was ready, he just moved on to something else and started a new business. The lesson that I picked up from that is when Matt was ready, I said, it's time to exit stage left, and it's his turn.
Today I look at that and I think, holy cow, that's a lot of responsibility.
I want that legacy to continue. I feel a sense of responsibility and accountability. It's a burden that you carry because you feel responsible. You feel responsible to the family, you feel responsible to everyone in this building.
To see how current employees do something that would be akin to what my grandfather would have done, or what my great-grandfather would have done, or what my dad would do. It is the unexpected joy of getting to do this job, is watching how those values transcended the family into the business and keep the business going.
The thing I'm most proud of is the fact that we're still here. I mean, 80 years is a long time.
I never thought of it as a job, actually. It was an adventure. And if I could do it again, I'd come back and do it again.
If we're so fortunate to transition to a fifth generation, that's what I want to make sure we're mindful of and that we keep.
At the end of the day, I still think personal relationships trump competency. All things being equal, I think people would prefer to do business with people with like values.
Well, and that's what we're building.
And that's what we're building.
We continue to build.
Mm-hmm.